All right, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for being here today at the Kern Valley Healthcare District. We are Thursday, August 10th, and it's our Board of Directors meeting. Call it to order at exactly 2 p.m. Basically, approval of agenda, pages 1 through 4. But to start with, I would like to start with the flag salute with Mr. Blythe and invocation by Ms. Catherine.
Please place your right hand over your heart and repeat after me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Lord, I just want to take this time to come before you and just bring to the forefront the thank you for the CNA graduation yesterday. It was nice to see and to welcome new individuals into the healthcare profession. Lord, I just ask that you touch each one of those young ladies and their families, help them grow in this profession, give them the kindness, ability to continue to work through you, Lord, and to use their hands, hearts, and minds to take care of our loved ones. Lord, I also thank you for the time that we have here to discuss the business of the hospital, Lord, and that I ask that you be with us as we make decisions, as we carry on our duties, and thank you for giving each one of us the opportunity to serve not only you, but our community, Lord. I just ask all these things in your name. Amen.
Amen. Before we proceed, do we have any changes on the agenda as presented? Mr. Burke? Really? No.
Nope, none for me, thank you.
Motion to approve. Thank you, sir. Can you get a second?
Second.
Thank you. That's right. Thank you, Jan. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Mission statement is on the agenda for everyone to raise. In regards to public comment, this portion of the meeting reserved for persons to address the board on any matters not on the agenda and under the jurisdiction of the board. Do we have any questions from staff or anyone in the public at this time? Okay. Seeing none, let's move on. Consent agenda. The following items are considered routine and non-controversial by hospital staff. They'll be moved on as one single action item. Unless a member of the board or a member of the audience wishes discussion or have anything from you. Have any changes or things we wish to address? Motion to accept consent as presented.
So moved.
May I get a second?
A second.
Thank you, Gene. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Okay. Thank you. All right. Okay, let's go to reports. Yes, Deb, Foundation. Hello.
River Rhythms is moving ahead. We have it again this Friday. All the money that we collect from there goes towards scholarships. And of course, this past year, we gave out two $1,000 scholarships to 2 local high school students. Crab Fest is coming along. We're working on silent auction items right now. We're going to have a lot of different things this year. So glad that for those of you who bought tickets, I think we only have maybe 4 tickets left. Let's see what else. Foundation just wants to remind you, we partnered with the healthcare district yesterday to provide food for the CNA graduation. And it was a lovely, I thought, great event. And any of those kids that pass their certificate or the certificate and are hired by us after their 6-month probation period, then the foundation does reimburse them for any additional costs that they had that wasn't covered by the healthcare district.
Nice.
That's my report for the foundation.
Thank you.
And for the auxiliary things.
How about the crabs? Are you able to?
Tiffany had already ordered them. So auxiliary, we're moving ahead. I am starting to get requests for people that are interested in working in the hospital here. when Sally gets back, I'll be meeting with Sally and Laura Springer to talk about what these volunteers or what kind of needs they have in the auxiliary skilled nursing. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Deb. Okay. Dr. Finstead, medical staff reports. It's not here. Why not? Did you send a report to anyone?
Did not. They're primarily.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. McGlynn?
Okay, just want to give a quick update. You know, again, I mentioned at one of the committee meetings last time that you know, the SNF has been upgraded to a 2-star rating for SNF on the Medicare reporting. We're working right now trying to do what we need to do to get that back up to a 3 or 4-star and so forth. So that's the process. Pleased to report that we hired a new pharmacy manager for the acute facility. That's Tuan Tran. He comes back to us. He was working for us before and was working down at Harbor UCLA for I think the last 7-8 years. She's got good experience. The staff was a part of the interview process and was very happy to have him coming back. And so he has started already and has kind of just jumped in and is moving forward with things. So very pleased with that. Quick update, emergency generator. Again, the sidewalks and back have all been replaced and the fencing's been removed. So now we can move around freely out there. You know, when the ambulances come up, they're not trying to work their way through a maze out there. And the public as well. And so again, pleased to have that. Next steps are really going to be to pour the pad for the generator. Bob's working on that now. They finished some of the compacting of the dirt out there. So they're just waiting for some clearances before they go ahead and do that. The generator itself is scheduled to be arriving in September. And we're working with the county or the air quality district. They have to approve this plan or whatever before we can even place the generator on a pad. So even if we didn't hook it up, could not place it on a pad without them approving it. So the company that's doing the install is going to hold the generator for us until that clearance comes through. And that might be early October is what I'm hearing. So just some of the delays, the stuff that the process is just difficult, but anyway, that's what we got to go through. The ERC earned the retention credits that we received. The bonus payments are going to be made to the employees, I believe, the week of August 21st. That's what we're still shooting for.
Have you notified him? Does any employees know that they're getting that?
We have, again, been part of public meetings and so forth. We've talked about it with managers and so forth. We are going to be hand delivering those checks. We're going to have a letter inside that is defining why we did this and so forth. I mean, there's been a lot. I think the word has gotten around the hospital that this is going on.
I was talking to someone that says, no way, there's no way I'm getting it.
Yeah.
She's been here 40 years.
That's a surprise that there. So some of that will be very well received. I went through all of the list of employees and refining the list and so forth. And I think there's going to be a lot of pleasantly surprised people. So I'll be real happy when that happens. There's a lot of people I think that really can use the money. I was going to talk about the pinning ceremony, but we've certainly covered that one already. I thought it was a great ceremony that they had. I really think we got some great quality CNAs that came through the class. And like I said, hopefully we are going to do everything we can to hold on to all of them and put them to work. So, again, that's really what we want to see. And I appreciate the work that Ben did with Joy. He was a welcome addition, I think, to the program and the perspective that he brings as an educator, having done that job for many years, and then obviously as an LVN. And so he takes it very personally and expects anybody who works in there is going to take it exactly the same way he does. And that's what we want. It's exactly what we want. Rhythms, again, we're going to chat about that started, obviously. And so, again, we've got 3 more to go. had a conference call with the Kern County CEOs last night. So it's something we do once a month. We get together, and the topic was primarily on the seismic plan. CHA has for the last several years been trying to work on a strategy to reduce the requirements for the strategic compliance, and so. And primarily what they've done, they have been working with the unions, especially the nursing unions, trying to get their help in making that happen, and working with the legislature. And that, for one reason or another, has not worked because they primarily were insisting upon these increases to the minimum wage to go along with that, which the hospitals could not bear. And so they apparently we kind of got an early report on what's coming out. Apparently there's something coming out today from CHA on this, but in essence what they're going to be doing is they're going to be changing that strategy away from working with the unions and moving towards an effort to engage community groups to help message the crisis that's going to occur in these communities if the hospitals cannot be rebuilt in time and so forth, or, again, with the costs that many are now being confronted with to make these things happen, as we've seen with our own project, and so forth. And, I had talked with them about bringing this message through to Kern Health Systems Board, obviously, and getting them as a large group that has a large constituency in this county, that it's important, obviously, that they can't provide services if they don't have the hospitals in the geographic areas that they need. And so forth. So they really would be a great help for us in that effort. The feeling is this is basically falling on deaf ears in Sacramento, and this whole issue of the cost issues and the fact that they, again, we need more money for the hospitals. The payments have not kept up. Some of that I think the governor, as I've talked before, is fought with this managed care, the MCO tax that was passed, is figuring that, oh great, the hospitals will get some money out of that, but not all of that's coming back to the hospitals. Some of it's coming, some of it's going into the general fund to fund other things that they want to do. Some of it's going to go towards behavioral health objectives, which is perfectly great. We absolutely need that, and we'll chat about that in a little bit. It's not enough, for the hospitals. And so there either has got to be some kind of reduction in the requirements or extensions or whatever. And so they're still doing everything they can to work on that. But I think
how's that tax paid?
That tax is a tax that's applied to the managed care HMOs, like Kern Health Systems and Health Net and others. So they tax them. That
so
money
they
is
get
then
it
goes
first before the patients.
Yes. Yeah, well, they get taxed. The money is then used to go to the feds.
When the money's coming down, it's something they goes
Well,
up.
the money then comes back through the same way, and so it's that's money that's ultimately used then to match against what the hospitals put up and so forth in order to get the IGT monies and those kinds of things. So we have Dave's been working with Kern Health Systems. We were able to get an IGT from them that's been increased from prior years as a result of that. So we're still waiting for HealthNet to come through with their estimates. But so that was nice to see that come through. But anyway, yeah, this is going to be an ongoing battle, I think, with the state on the seismic thing. Again, with the financial crisis that a lot of the hospitals are finding themselves in, they're not sure how the heck this is all going to work out to get this done. I know in talking with the group last night, like I said, Ken Keller shared with me before, Memorial, that they're looking at the way it is standing right now. They're looking at about $400 million to make their seismic adjustments. Kern Medical was probably just below that. And so it's a nightmare. And I told them, I said, because those estimates they've been putting out for some time, I said, you better go back and reprice your projects, because we saw how much ours went up, and they were like stunned. I just said it's a bad situation right now.
So do you actually think that if a hospital hasn't started their seismic upgrade by 2030, that somebody's going to come in and not relicense them? Is that?
Yeah, that is where the law is written right now.
It's like,
if you make no effort whatsoever, I almost guarantee that will probably happen. So, but the point is those that are in process, I think the feeling is that they will be given extensions at that point. But you've got to have made an effort. You've done nothing, you know. And there are some hospitals that are financially in a situation where they can't, you know, and those are the ones that are really going to be impacted by this. So that was a big part of our conversation last night. The other thing I brought up was the whole issue of of our 5150 situation in this county. The problems that we've been having as a hospital and trying to get patients put on 5150s. They will basically come in and they won't even write the 5150. They say, well, we recommend a 5150, or they qualify for 5150, but they won't write the 5150. Because that basically puts them on and responsible for finding a placement for that patient and so forth, because we are not qualified for the state to be doing treatment on those patients for that 72 hours.
it starts the 72-hour clock.
It starts the clock for which they're supposed to get it done. And like I said, we're finding out many times that those patients don't get done. And like I said, we had a patient recently that happened to. They came back. We tried to get them to rewrite that 5150 or extend it. They came back and wouldn't do the extension, but they basically said, well, we recommend that this patient still needs to be on it, but that does absolutely nothing. And so the point is we've got patients here that we can't care for because we don't have the staff, we don't have the training or the room to do that. And so many of the other hospitals echoed the same problems. The Hospital Association is actually meeting with the county's director for behavioral health services on Monday. They're going to bring this issue to them on behalf of all the hospitals in Kern County and just say that something's got to be done. You know, they've got to either provide more beds or they've got to come up with some different standards. I know the CEO from Good Samaritan Hospital, Minty Dillon, who's also got a facility that she's over up in Tulare County, just said the differences between Tulare County and Kern County are like night and day in terms of who can write a 5150. Kern is extremely strict, the strictest in the state, about getting patients put on those, and because it's only police officers and their staff down at the county. Med team, right?
I'm talking about hospitals having problems and funds. Taft, how's Taft doing?
Well, Taft isn't a hospital anymore. Taft
I
is
know they
district,
were.
yeah.
Has anybody helped to bring them back?
They are working on that, and I've worked with the CEO down there. I know him. Actually knew him through the hospital, through the Kern Health System Board, they finally got a rural health clinic designation out there, so they have a clinic.
They haven't emergency room yet.
They're moving towards that. They're trying to get designation to do that. They said that was the biggest mistake they ever made in giving that up to another agency. So who was not motivated to keep it open, you know. So
okay, thanks.
yeah, I've worked with them before. They've called us for consulting sometimes and so forth.
So can I ask you a question about the 5150 issue? It sounds like the county is evading their responsibility.
100%.
Can we file suit against them? Get an injunction against them? Say, do what you're supposed to do under the law?
Well, I'm sure we could do that, you know, again, but now you're setting up an adversarial relationship. I mean,
so what?
Well, I'm not saying, my point is I wouldn't start there.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's why I brought this up last night, because I wanted this to come from all the hospitals.
Yeah.
You know, as a group
I think that's
effort.
a good strategy.
And that was my point of trying to say, let's get the strength of numbers, not just us little hospital up here, nobody else is complaining. You know, so, but if everybody goes with one voice of saying this is untenable and unworkable, we've got to do something. So, and go to you county, you got to provide funds to do this. Now, Stacy Kuhara, who's the head of behavioral health services for Kern County, came to the KHS board meeting about a month ago, and presented, that they had just received a huge grant from feds, to enhance their services and so forth. Don't know where that's at. Haven't heard anything from them in terms of what their plans are, for more beds or for more people or, you know, whatever. And I think that's one of the things that the hospital council and hospital association are going to be pressing with them. And I know they're going to be going after some of the grant money that Current Health Systems is looking to put up at 20 million that I've talked about before, to try to enhance their services. But our big issue is we want to make sure that that money is going in the right direction. You know, they've gotten tons of money through College Health Services up here over the years.
They were getting money back when you were down there. I mean, they've been getting money for, and where has it gone? It's not gone anywhere.
Yeah. Right. And so, yeah, and that was an issue I got into with the county board of supervisors before, when we went to try and carve out our area here for the lake area here, which they ultimately were willing to grant to us.
They built the CSU in Ridgecrest,
right,
who won't take any patients.
Right.
So it's a frustration that really is for somebody like me who's trying to get them to the care that they need from our ER, because we have a service.
Well, wasn't they were going to put a facility here in our community?
They were going to put a homeless shelter kind of / behavioral health thing up here, and then they
redirected it to another area.
That was before Stacy took over. For
you know, at a minimum that could happen tomorrow is to give our staff the ability to write the 5150 and start that clock.
Would certainly help.
Yeah.
But like I said, you know, like I said, once that 50/50 is called, then you have to, there has to be a psychiatrist. Some new changes that came out, Mark was just telling me this morning. It's actually a law that was passed back in 2022. That's just now coming into play. That is going to change some of that, but it doesn't really impact.
They're putting the burden back on the hospitals.
Yeah.
Can it be a telehealth visit? Or is that
well, they did talk about telehealth visits for doing some of that, yes. But like I said, we still have the issue of the housing of those patients and so forth.
We're stuck with them in the ER anyway.
Yeah.
But at least we can start the clock.
CEO from
and have the ability to then discharge them at the end of that time period.
The CEO from Mercy Southwest was sharing that he had a patient in his ER for 2 months.
Oh, that's ridiculous.
That they could not get out. We had 1 month with one of our patients here and so forth, and just said it was unbelievable. Total breakdown of the system and so forth that you know, to have a patient in an area that is that stimulating from noise, light, traffic, you know, these kinds of things.
Possible
environment. Is not the place for those people.
And this was an issue, and that's why they were all readily saying, yes, we need to do this. We need to get these conversations going, and we need to be together on doing this. And so that's going to take effect, or they're going to start that process on Monday.
Good.
And so you know, we've got to do something. It's just not happening. Yeah, you know,
there are opportunities like the behavioral healthcare board. Do they have any authority over the department? Can we push through that angle?
I'm not sure what their structure is from that perspective. It's just the county board supervisors.
My knee jerk is to send the patient to Mary Kay Shell. There's no EMTALA rules.
Because you're not sending it to an ER.
You're not sending it to an ER. Then, you know, you're just sending a patient to a bad situation. That's the problem. You know what their situation is.
Correct. But they're short-staffed right now. I know I've heard that from
so that's kind of the challenge we're up against. If we don't have a what it's described in the literature as a evaluation and treatment license program by the state. We don't have that here, but they're leaving those patients in our environment because they can't take them. So the obvious response is build another facility, train another person, get some more bed space available.
Bed space.
That's the obvious fix. And if they've got all this money to do that, why aren't they doing that?
Yeah.
So that's my soapbox.
2 other issues I want to bring up.
Almost done.
You know, last month I talked about trying to get approval for a consulting agreement to review our revenue cycle management performance. And
I am not going to be pursuing that. I'm taking that off the table at this time. We've had meetings and discussions with the staff. They're reconvening their RCM meetings, which were very effective for us a couple years ago. So the plan at this point is really to try to let them work through those issues and try to get that low-hanging fruit and so forth to see if we can get those AR days down and improve our cash collections and those kinds of things. And so I'm going to let that strategy play out, see if we can.
Like 90 days?
We have, yeah, probably we'll know within that 90 days whether or not we've gotten traction out of that. And the point is then, you know, if we decide that there is some additional support that's needed to help make that happen, we can then bring it in on a much more narrow focused basis instead of a broad scale type thing. But staff seem very motivated in making that happen. So I'm going to basically allow that to play out, and we'll see how that goes.
Raise your hand higher.
What's that?
So, speak for maybe Catherine, but in the finance meetings, can we see like some kind of detail each month of how it's coming down?
Absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. Yeah. You bet. Yeah, because I think there already is a report in there that kind of shows the AR days and dollars and stuff over time. But yeah, so you should certainly see it there.
So just something that's more
focused on that.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah, we'll work on that. We'll work on that. And the last thing I kind of wanted brought up.
Question of possible.
Oh, yes.
So, question for John. Okay. So would you guys like the meeting minutes from those meetings? Like what exact, what?
I think you're looking for the AR days.
Just the AR days.
Yeah, just that some indicator that actually we're improving. That's what we're looking for.
Okay, well, because some of those reports are going to be attached to those meetings. So,
yeah. Maybe you and I can go through that, figure out, or Dave or whatever, Barbara, figure out what we need to present. So, okay. Last thing I want to talk about is, you know, again, we talk about the need for security here at the hospital, and all hospitals. You know, again, we continue to hear these situations that are going on. We had a situation last night where a patient was brought in, and ambulance crew alerted to us that the patient admitted that he had a sharp object in his pant leg, and would use that if anybody tried to do anything to him. That patient was offloaded. Ambulance crew did inform our staff that this was the situation.
They didn't inform them until after the patient was accepted.
Yes, exactly. We didn't know that. So they offloaded the patient and then tell us and so forth. I think our staff did a great job in dealing with it. Obviously, it was very nerve-wracking for many of them. The sheriff was ultimately called out, and they were able to remove the knife.
The RN has asked for 2 weeks off.
Yeah, and
to see
she was a bit traumatized
too. That.
Right, and so because basically he had it in his pant leg, and then he brought it up and was seen putting it into his waist kind of band under his shirt and so forth, and he began acting very nervously. You know, but like I said, we just
the bigger problem is the sheriff's response.
Yeah.
You know, Dr. Burroughs asked the sheriff, once they did finally show up, if they had checked that patient after they removed that knife. Did you search him for any other weapons? Well, they said, well, we didn't have any probable cause to do that. We can't do that.
Violate his rights.
So I have a difference of opinion. The sheriff, the paramedics had responded to this kid's house before, and they felt inclined to include the sheriff to go to the house before this latest visit to clear him. Well, they didn't even check him then. Yeah. They said, oh, no, he's fine. And they left, and they bring him into the ER, and he's got a knife on him. So I don't know what we can do differently, what stopgap measures we can put in place. I know that in our workplace violence policy, it does indicate that we can identify a person visit to visit, that this potential is there for somebody to show up.
Yeah, and we have prior history with this patient.
So he was here last week and it was overheard. He was saying on the phone to the crisis stabilization unit that if he was, so
he was going to cause harm.
He was going to cause harm. So he was a threat to others.
There should be liability on the ambulance company.
That's what I was gonna say.
For any-
Yeah, we're going to have a conversation.
If we're paying 2 weeks off.
I agree with you. That's a good point, Chief.
Dave, should we turn a claim into the ambulance company for them deceiving us, actually hiding it? Because they
I don't necessarily know that they deceived us. They did tell us.
Yeah,
But it was after.
Could they have told us earlier?
They could have told us, and I don't know that anything could have happened differently.
You might have had the sheriff here waiting. You know, I mean, there are some things that might have changed.
So,
you know,
Scott, you got a comment on that?
Yeah, there's some culpability there, and I think discussions with them would be appropriate and see if we can make improvements going forward.
yeah. So
Yeah.
we will do that. Mark and I will.
As far as having a legal claim, I'm not sure that you'd have a legal claim. And the reason I say this is, and this gets back a little bit to the 5150 discussion, first responders generally, and this is a little hard to believe for most people, but they don't have a duty to do anything. They don't have a duty to respond to calls. They don't have a duty to provide police protection. They don't have a duty to provide fire protection. But if they do that, then they can become liable. But their immunities up to that point are very strong because they deal with very tense situations and they're making split-second decisions. And so generally, the law has a very high threshold of liability for those types of jobs. So I don't know that the district would have a claim against the ambulance company, but it certainly is worth saying, hey, let us know so we can have the sheriff there, right? Because that's what you want to do. You want to call the sheriff's department and have them available to help out if this person does engage in self-harm or harms others. And so that's the conversation that you want to have with the ambulance company.
Yeah, they put us in danger, knowing seems like there should be some way.
So we can reach out to the.
That's a good point. I will certainly bring it up with them. You bet.
It's sure complicated because they have to bring that patient to the hospital and you got to accept them under EMTALA.
Yeah.
So where do you stop the
The
patient
sheriff
coming
could
in the
stop
doors?
them before they came in the doors.
Yeah.
The sheriff
We can't.
it's on- The sheriff can't?
No.
So can we, Scott, can the hospital create a policy that says no weapons on our campus and
We have that policy.
and we can't, and we won't provide service to you unless you abide by that and have them sign and agree to it in order to be seen?
You'd have to have signage posted on your walls and doors, you know, as people were entering the facility to reflect that. Because this was a point Mark brought that up this morning to me, and I'm going, I said, well, how not everybody in the county knows that we don't allow weapons in our facility. You know, it's and you got people that come from out of town, out of the area, you know, and stuff like that. So so either it's visibly posted, you know, that, you know, again, if weapons are brought in, the fact that we will not provide service. And so we reserve the right not to. And so forth. And yeah, I mean, we've got to sit down and obviously take a look at that again, but in terms of our own policies and so forth. But I think, like I said, the staff, I think
we need to have a meeting with KCSO too, to just let them know, hey, this is not okay.
Right.
I don't know what your policies are in front of these behavioral health problems, but leaving them in the ER, we don't have resources here to protect ourselves and to protect others. Or, you know, the thing that was mentioned to me a few minutes ago was, hey, there's a patient in bed 5 and this patient's in bed 7. What do we do to protect that patient that's in bed 5? Right. In the same room with this.
Well, he had actually given up the knife to the police and so forth, as I understand. And apparently then they were saying, okay, we'll cut it down. And that's when I think Dr. Burroughs asked, you know, well, have you checked for anything else and so forth? But I think at some point there, they made the decision to go ahead and remove him from the facility. And so he was arrested and so forth. But, you know, again, it just underscores the risks that, you know, all of our staff are put up with on a day-to-day basis, so.
So we add medical detectors to our upgrades.
Yeah, some hospitals have,
I know.
Yeah. you know, so.
Yeah, but if he's wheeled in on an ambulance gurney, it's gonna set it off, so.
Right, yeah, that's you're right.
So then you start, hey, we gotta find out what it is, you know?
Yeah.
I don't
the
know.
leverage we've got is the medical service we provide. And so we withhold that until our staff is safe.
Yeah.
And the
So-
other patients,
Well, yeah, absolutely.
because you just don't
So with, you know,
know.
on a 911 call, if there's a threat on scene, they call sheriff and have sheriff come make sure the scene's safe before the responders go in. If they bring that threat to the hospital, well, the patient probably should have never been loaded onto the gurney in the first place in the ambulance.
Well, I don't know that if they were aware of that. I don't know at what point they became aware of it. You know, I think my understanding was it was in the ambulance
Okay.
that he made that statement.
That's the way it seemed to me when I read the report.
You know, and maybe there's some code that they call back to their main base and saying, hey, I got a patient here that's telling us he's got a weapon and so forth. And they then make the phone call. They have the sheriff beat them here at the hospital or whatever. You know, there's something, and we'll have to have those conversations.
Basically clear the patient to enter the hospital.
Well, and to protect the hospital, you've got a known threat there, and now you're gonna bring wheeling into the hospital.
Yeah.
That you could create a bigger problem. So.
Carrie, do you know if there's anything in CPSI that I think we talked about it before, but if you put a comment in the allergy section of the electronic health record, it carries through to each visit. Is that correct?
Allergies do. I don't know what you would put in there, though.
So you could put
field in there,
potential risk, propensity for violence. Is that field big enough to put in
it's a free text.
I don't know if
free
it's
text
I
field.
don't know if it's a free text field or something predefined.
I think it would have to be a free text field.
Yeah, an allergy, yeah.
An allergy to shellfish or whatever. I don't know.
That wouldn't cross over into the T system though, because allergies don't cross over from CPSI to T system. So there would have to be something for the T system.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
I need to look
We'd
at
have to
that.
explore it.
Yeah.
So in our workplace violence policy, it does say that we are going to put in a measure to share with staff from visit to visit that the family member had a propensity for violence or whatever. Right. So there is in our policy, we need to come up with some way to do that. Make sure that it follows through, carries through. Yes.
Well, I know like whenever the patient comes in their profile, there is a note section. And then when that patient comes in, put in their name and their profile pops up, there will be a message that will display.
Okay. Show me that later, would you please?
That's smart one.
You okay?
Can you bring a happier one next month? A happier report next month?
I got nothing, but I'll tell you in closed session.
So, remind me again how we are addressing this issue. How are we moving forward?
We're gonna move forward with this and discussing this with the ambulance company first. I think
And the sheriff.
We need to start, and then we're gonna set up a meeting with the sheriff. To get them out here. Because I think, and I think I really want the ambulance company to be a part of that as well.
Sure.
It ought to be a hand in hand.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We all need to be on the same page as to how we're gonna handle these kinds of situations, because they're in just as much danger as our staff are.
Absolutely.
You know, and so I think they would certainly want some kind of agreement or understanding with the sheriff.
You could have one person in the back of the ambulance turns their back and this person has a knife. What else do you want?
Yeah, exactly.
We
And that
would almost have to turn it in as a work comp claim, otherwise if we don't, we would be responsible later if she sues us. We're responsible to turn it in now.
It would,
Even if we decide to pay her out of our pocket into 2 weeks.
Nice.
yeah, it's a good point.
This definitely should probably.
Shows a paper trail anyway.
This probably should go that route.
Right. Yeah. Well, and employee assistance and that kind of thing, but obviously get them involved.
happen. That's awful. But in fact, it could have been much worse.
Exactly. So, thank you, Tim.
You're welcome. Mr. Court?
Oh, is it my turn?
Okay, you want your report?
I got my report right here, but we've already talked about a lot of it.
Don't make it so short.
I said that I was not gonna talk about COVID, but I lied.
Okay,
Because COVID, for the last 2 weeks is back up to 2.2%, so it is rising a little bit. We've had 3 cases in the first 2 weeks or first 10 days of this month. And so we're seeing a little bit of a bump in that. It's an Omicron variant. Dr. Finstead mentioned it yesterday in P&T, where it's a EGV3, or I don't remember the nomenclature. But so not making people really sick. It's more of the flu. I actually had a staff member who was sick with it, and she said the flu was worse. So anyway, the requirements for masking have not changed yet, so we'll see. And then the 5 days off and then return if no fever, no asymptomatic, things like that. So those are all still in place. Greg, any comments?
No, just we deal with them all case by case. So
Right.
ask managers to call me directly.
Okay. So the transportation service has been providing those 9 to 11 rides per day. They're still on that same tack. There have been a few incidences where the drivers are having issues with the people they're giving rides to. I mean, it's almost becoming an expectation instead of a privilege to get that ride. It seems like these days, like you should have been here this time and blah, blah, blah. So there's some of that kind of almost entitlement thing going on with some people. This is a free service. It's a courtesy service. And people should remember that, I think. No further word from the current health systems grants, except I'm waiting for their report to come out near the end of August, I think, of what the grants are going to be, what grants are going to be offered. So hopefully there'll be something in there for us to get some of that reimbursement money. I guess you guys have already talked about the CNA class pinning ceremony, so that need to mention that. During the CAPS committee meeting, there were 2 items that were discussed related to the plan of correction. The PC backup was having difficulty backing up the CPSI system, and we discovered a training issue related to its operators. So that problem was solved with operator education. And so now we shouldn't have a problem going forward. The surgery audits that are being conducted are kind of difficult to understand and read. They're just kind of numbers and you can't track trends. So we did decide to have Dina extrapolate the data and put it into a more friendly, user-friendly format so we can identify trends on a graph. Other than that, that is my report. Unless there are questions.
The current medical trauma center. A lot of people get transferred there. Is it a good thing to get transferred there if you're in trauma?
Yes.
Okay.
They're a level 3 trauma center.
So are there any other hospitals that are the same way?
No.
That's what I've been telling people. It's the place to go.
So Kern Medical is awesome once you get beyond the
right. The bad part.
Once you get into
Bad
you got to get past the front door and past the triage desk,
Right.
and then you're in good hands. But they're so busy and it's really difficult, and that's why people have horror stories about it, because they end up waiting in the ER lobby for a long time. But
Still the best.
if you go there for trauma, yeah, they have the trauma surgeons on call. They do a super job.
So we could go there after one of these meetings.
Yeah, if they do.
We'll transfer you.
I was going to say, you could take us.
But Mary Kay Shell won't take you. So.
And they're right next door.
And they're right next door.
Right.
When we this is backing up just a little bit to our previous conversation about 5150s. You know, I know when we have a person that is medically not able to stay here and there's no beds, we've transferred them, you know, all over LA, Fresno, Palmdale. Can we not do that with a 5150?
We have issues because of crossing county lines
are the
for
problem.
5150 because we do it differently than everybody else.
Well, we should do it the same there.
Well, that's what the CEO is pushing.
Because with like in Porterville, they have a facility.
Right. So this is the issue I was getting to with Mindy Dillon, the CEO from Good Stand.
It just takes me a little while. It's still in my
She's got the
head.
Tulare experience that she's saying is so much easier up there than it is in Kern County. It's frustrating for them. And they're a psych hospital to deal with that stuff.
Well, and they have a lot of psych techs.
Yes.
You know,
Yep.
So there was a time, talk about going back, and I've been dealing with behavioral health since the late 90s at this facility. College Community Services had a team. It was the Hospital Crisis Response Unit,
yes.
HCRS, I think, and they had grant funded. It was grant funded, and they could actually write a hold. So when we started calling them, their hours started changing, and it became problematic for them to come and place the hold. So I don't know what's happened over the years, but I know that HCRT lost their funding and it went away. But I don't know if there's still anybody at that facility that can write those holds.
I was told that there is nobody up here that can do that. It's in Bakersfield.
And so it's just the med team and the sheriff.
Right.
And the sheriff now calls the med team.
Right.
The sheriff doesn't even know. Trouble is, once the hold is written, the sheriff has to stay with the patient.
So
that's what I said. So
they don't
have
your job resources.
Because I've taken your rights away, now you have to be here. And if the sheriff doesn't stay, in my opinion, we don't have a evaluation and treatment center here. We're not licensed for that. If that patient gets up and walks out, I can call the sheriff. But what happens is they walk out and then they commit suicide in the parking lot, then I'm on the hook for it. So there's a real problem.
Yeah. And this underscores this action that they've taken, which is, oh, we're going to drop them off for medical clearance first. So it's medical clearance, it's on us.
Right.
Okay. And then we're sitting there and telling them, okay, great, we're medically cleared. Well, then they never come back because they know if they do, they got to write the 5150 at that point in time. And they're on the hook to do something with that patient. And so
it's a catch-22. It's a bad situation. And if Kern County behavioral health doesn't do something quick, people are going to be hurt.
Yeah,
by that.
Yeah. I want to say CCS had a lot of their funding cut in recent years too.
It's funny you mentioned that because where's all the money going? The grant money that's been given to Kern County? Why didn't it come to fund some of those programs? Right. I don't know.
Yeah, because Brandy's mom isn't here. Yeah, she used to run, and that's why she quit because of how things were.
Oh yeah,
not being done.
Absolutely, we've heard that from many people. Yeah,
yeah,
and they've gone through numerous changes administratively over there and so forth. And like I said, a couple of years ago, we went down to try and argue to get ourselves carved out. So because we had Clinic Sierra Vista that had a psych group that was willing to bid on that for just our community here. So we would have those resources here. And then that all fell apart because community then recruited the guy away from Clinic Sierra Vista. And then everything just died. And then Clinic got,
everybody, there's not enough mental health.
That is true.
How's the new management for? How are they moving? Are they moving forward, stand still?
No, they're moving forward. Lots of different things.
Yeah,
lots of different things. So Dr. Mayavi has lots of different things, and she has the support. I mean, they have street system, doctors that are out there on the streets every day with, a group. So
it's great program.
It is really good. So I don't know, maybe we ought to build a facility and get together with them, they have resources for more
Yeah.
physicians than that
They
we
do.
do.
Well, that's what I say, clinic does too, or not clinic, but Good Sam Hospital.
Yes.
They've got like 36 psychiatrists and psychologists and stuff on their staff and all kinds of staff. They've got street clinic programs going on there that was funded through Kern Health and other places.
Yeah.
So forth. So and Mindy wants to come work with us to help develop something. So there may be a way to bring all three groups together.
Back to the grant writing.
Exactly.
I guess I'm going to school.
I'm gonna go to medical school.
I'm not. I've already done some grant writing
And that's my
classes, but I don't. Oh, yeah, let's move on. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mark. Any other questions for Mark? No. All right. Mr. Recupero?
Thank you, Fred. Just to piggyback on a little bit what Tim was saying, I am also excited about resurrecting this committee, this RCM committee that disbanded right around the time of a lot of other programs due to the COVID crisis we had. There was just not enough resources to continue committees like that. And so it hadn't been going on for quite a while, even before I got here. So as I got educated on how effective they were, and the more I thought about it, this is a multi-departmental, multidisciplinary group, and they've had a really good history of showing how dedicated they've been to the hospital and how improvements have been made. Part of the reason we're sitting so well financially today is all the years that the staff themselves really have taken ownership and really it's really been important to them that they get these issues resolved. Chet, I know, played a role in those meetings, mostly just to go to the departments and make sure that the decisions made in this committee is enforced, and the clinical departments or whatever, doctors, whatever, would comply to whatever changes are needed so that we improve our billing and get our denials down, especially. So for Ross, the 90-day look back, I think that's a doable. We can report back to show you guys that this committee is making a difference. One way I would measure success, and keep in mind the way I'm looking at it is kind of a root cause analysis. What we do is we zero in on exactly what caused an individual claim not to get paid correctly or not to get paid at all. And because we're involving all the different departments that play a role in what goes into what's submitted as far as the medical record, we can zero in on exactly what has to change for this particular payer, what their rules are, if they've changed the rules or whatever, and put in place new policies so that either we have a good case to argue whether or not this claim should have been denied, or to make changes going forward so that we can improve our overall denial percentage. So my point is, one of the ways this committee can show results is to bring down our denial percentage number, which in this last year was over the industry average of 2%, which is something that would be a goal to reach, is get those denials lower than they were in the last year. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into my report. Any questions on that before I go into the report? Can you see the graphs?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not hearing anything, and sometimes when I'm not in the room, I don't know whether to continue to pause or to just move on.
What page are you on, Dave?
I'm on page
22.
22. So we're talking about the end of our fiscal year 23, 12 months.
Right.
And we finished the year at a very high number in terms of our financial strength index, 5.08. And even though that's come down the last couple of months, it's still much higher than it's ever been. And it's due to having the combination of continued consistent profitability and high liquidity. So those are two things that really matter in that measurement. When I reported at the finance committee, there was an additional $163,000 that hadn't showed up on our interim reports that we fixed between then and now. So our bottom line went up slightly to now to the point where we finished the year pretty much right equal to where we finished in 2000 and fiscal 21, 2,468,000 compared to 2,478,000. And there's actually about 35,000 of this current number that we could argue was expenses that probably should have been capitalized, Greenbow expenses that we will work with the auditor and see if we want to move some of those dollars out of the expense that improve the bottom line by a little bit more. And it would actually cause this number to be a little bit higher than the 21 number. But another good solid year. We had a lot of things go well and some things not so well in terms of the volumes not being quite as high as we were budgeting and what we had in prior years, except for ER, and also the billing issues. It was about 400,000 in denials that were over compared to the industry averages. So that also hurt our bottom line. In general, the 2.2 million, if you were to ask the banks who would look at us in terms of our future credit worthiness and to borrow money for bond issues, they would view that bottom line of 2.4 million as a really solid, very credit worthy number that puts us in good position if we ever have to add new debt for our seismic project, that we're still in good position to do that. Any questions before I move on to the next page? I'm on page 23.
We're just talking about the seismic project and we're in good shape. Have we heard anything on the grant?
Nope, not yet.
We're crossing our fingers. The next couple of weeks will obviously be a really important moment. If we get that accomplished, I would have to look back at fiscal 23 as maybe our best year ever financially if we were to be able to secure such a large grant, including that with the ERC grant.
You'll know as soon as we get it. I assure you.
So you could argue it might be premature to be able to completely put a label on how good this fiscal year was. Even without the FEMA, it was a solid year, despite some of the negatives that I pointed out. You can see how the last quarter net income showed a nice improvement in the last 3 months. We had also the last fourth quarter, you can see adjusted financial strength index improving. And that's mostly due to the IGTs coming in late in the year and the ERC money showing an increase in liquidity, causing the fourth quarter strength index to improve. So I'm looking at my notes here. If I see anything else I want to point out, I think that's pretty much it. We're overall cash. Remember that 1.8 million that really should have come in on the IGT. If you add that to our existing bank balances, we would have shown about $1 million increase in our bank balances this year if the normal IGTs would have come in. The good news is, as a result of that delay, now we're going to see this current fiscal year where I'm really getting excited, especially because we had this recent success with Kern Health Systems in terms of getting a higher IGT for this next one coming up. That I think we're going to see some really nice numbers on the supplemental side that should show a really good solid bottom line based on what I see so far. Now, granted, it's early in the fiscal year, but right now indicators are that that supplemental should really help our bottom line for the fiscal 24 outlook. Now, I'm going to digress a little bit and get technical, and I'll probably put some of you to sleep, so I apologize ahead of time. But I want to talk about how all these issues affect each other when we talk about a bottom line and we talk about AR issues. So what specifically changes on our financial statements that end up showing less of a profit? So I want to look here at page 24, and I want to go to line 5. Line 5 is called less bad debt and allowance for reserves. That line item represents the difference between how much we have billed in accounts receivable compared to how much we expect to collect. The expect to collect number is on line 6, called net patient accounts receivable. And you can see that's significantly less than what's in gross AR on line 4. What makes that adjustment is in the middle on line 5, which you can see based on my conservatism. So I kind of pulled a Chet in the month of June because we didn't get as much of our denials. And by the way, so we got about 500,000 of our denials did get appeals did get approved, but not as many as I had hoped. So you can see an increase here from 23,416 to 23,774. That causes net patient accounts receivable to drop, and the percentage going from 18 down to 12 as a result of a kind of a pessimistic look at the quality of our AR. Now, having said that, the business office has done a great job in the last 3 to 6 months in bringing down the high balances that were like over 7 million over 180 days. Now it's down to like 3 million. And then at medical records, they've also made big improvements by having the overall days in unbilled go from I think it was over 6.1 down to 3.7 days in unbilled. So all the departments have really stepped up the last. But what I have to do here is I have to make some kind of a judgment on how the whole year went. And I decided to be conservative like Chet had been in the past and really make sure that we don't overstate our net patient accounts receivable, even though this percentage I think should be closer to the 18% we had in there last month. But we're gonna just keep it conservative until the actual cash comes in and we can show improvements in our denial percentage and those kind of things. So is there any questions about what I just talked about as it relates to the way it shows up on the balance sheet?
No, but I have a question, Dave.
Sure.
You're talking about aging. What's the dollar figure that we're dealing with that's beyond 12 months?
Oh, 12 months, about 1.8 million. It went down to, that number was significantly higher about 6 months ago as well. So,
okay, but now if it's beyond 12 months, what are our odds of getting paid on that?
That's a good example of where our RCM committee could find
well, what I'm looking at is because versus stutter stepping, if we're talking zero, does that need to come off the books now and stop screwing around?
Yeah, we reserve about 95% of it already. Do we want to reserve 100%? Yeah, we could. I think, in fact, me moving this number, you could argue that I pretty much got 100% of it reserved already by being ultra conservative here down to the 12% number. Because keep in mind, normally our collection rate's around 19%. So that, which means the real older stuff is really, most of it's being reserved for uncollectible. And so that's a good point.
At least if you do that, we have a true number on the bottom line.
Exactly. And I think the auditors, when they come in and do their presentation for this current year audit, you could ask them that question and they'll agree.
Yeah. And then the next question comes in. Sorry, the next question comes in. What is it that we did wrong to not collect?
There were a lot of extenuating circumstances that outside of our staff's control. Specifically, what I would say is the number one problem, and this is going back to 2020 and 2021, because that's what the accounts that got written off were from those dates of service. There was staff turnover there of specific individuals who would perform the tasks of getting these TARs billed. That one had to take a leave of absence for 6 months. The person that replaced them, finding out retrospectively, didn't bill it correctly. So that also put us even farther behind, not only not having the resources to bill it initially, but also rebilling it in the wrong way. So there was a lot of extenuating circumstances. It was a labor-intensive process. Instead of being able to do it electronically, we had to fax everything that had a medical record attached to it. It was very cumbersome. The staff had to put a lot of time into it. And there were several cases where the determination was made that it was a legitimate denial, that in fact the patient didn't meet criteria of being over 7 days in a bed hold, and the new medical record didn't show enough documentation. I am still hopeful that we can either figure out with our committee or bring in some outside help of still seeing if we can still recover some of that money. But up to this point, we're showing what we've been able to accomplish so far, which has only been like about a half a dozen claims that we appealed that actually got paid, and then the other 25 or so has not gotten paid yet. So we are showing all of that as an allowance for reserves of not being collectible.
Yeah, the issue is in response to your question, that 1 year period is for you to build that. So if we build it and there's issues or questions about whether or not it was denied appropriately or those kinds of things, that window is not impacted anymore. But the point is, the important part is getting it built within that window, because otherwise then your chance of getting it's pretty much.
And we, back in 21, I wasn't, or 20, excuse me, I wasn't here, and that window kind of disappeared by the time I got here.
Okay,
go ahead.
Yeah, Sherry, did you have something?
I was just going to say that are we talking about inpatient denials? Are we talking hospital-wide denials, like for ER?
No, it's mostly skilled nursing.
Okay.
And every department, as far as I could see, did it the appropriate thing. It was a lot of it was short staffing. We lost our manager, and we lost a couple billers, and then we lost Chet. So Chet wasn't here to follow up for a while, and I didn't pick up the ball as fast as I could have. We had meetings related to revenue cycle management, but putting a much more robust committee where we have other departments involved, it has a high likelihood of being much more effective than what I had in place up till now. So
There's
I'm looking
400,000 that you're talking about. Is that for SNP?
Pretty much, those are accounts that were that's the amount we would have collected on the balances that we had a write-off of claims that received zero payment. And again, that's not the end of the story. I'm still looking for possibilities of finding other ways to do the appeals. But as of right now, I have to take a snapshot of fiscal year end. I have to be pessimistic and not be overly optimistic on how much we can collect going forward. But for me, the combination of what the committee can come up with and or what we can find with denial management consulting for California specific types of consultants, we may be able to improve that number somewhat. But as Tim said, none of this is a problem going forward because all the rules change. So we don't have to worry about TARS denials going into fiscal 24 because now we're dealing with managed care HMOs, and their rules are all different, and we are finding ourselves successful in getting those bills paid and paid correctly and on time. So
yeah, we still have a lot of money outstanding, Dave. So I'm going to worry about it till we get to that.
Absolutely, and you have a right to. If you look at the long-term trends and we look at total cash coming in compared to total billed, you generally see a minor little blip as a percentage. And granted, it's still a lot of money, but we can fix this problem. And knowing how much the staff cares about this as much as I do, as much as the board does, I have no doubt that we are capable of really getting back on track, at least at or better than industry averages. So every hospital has denials, by the way, and they have significant denials, up to 2% of their billings. So it's not something that completely goes to zero.
That's okay. John, you had a question, or Catherine?
I have a question. Dave, you keep mentioning bed holds. So is that where you're saying
that when they go over 7 days, we got to completely start over and submit all new medical records and we have to go through a whole new justification as soon as they go beyond the 7 days of a bed hold.
Slowly
But-
starting over with
But
assessments.
it's,
So
I don't
medical
know if
records
that's
does a
still
good job.
true. That's not how it used to be. And I
Oh.
tell you, I've been here for a while, but a bed hold was a bed hold. You didn't start a new chart.
If they came back during those 7 days.
It's a 7-day bed hold. Otherwise you discharge them.
Yeah, and we had other
a
ones
low-
that,
so-
That's what he's saying, is because some of those things will still go back to the SNF, but if it's after the 7-day bed hold, now we're starting like a new account from that.
yes,
Right.
and that's where there was confusion.
Well, it's not really confusing. It's then everything starts over. It's like they are a complete new admission. New
Exactly.
chart, new number, new everything. So where's the downfall? Is it in nursing that they didn't do a new admission, do a new PASSAR, a new TAR, a new everything?
I think it was a staffing issue.
We have someone else
But I
talking here, sorry.
I'm sorry, I'm not in the room, so I don't see that.
My thought right now is a lot of these perhaps denials are because of medical necessity, not meeting the skilled nursing level for some of these residents. That is my thought right now. They could dig into it more. So again, it could be documentation. It could be all these issues where we're not getting it, because we're trying to put everything we can on that order side to present to Stacy to get these claims paid, and we put everything we can.
Right.
Other than that.
But then if they're not meeting bed holes, they're not long-term care. So then somebody needs to make sure they've had those 3-day qualifying stays before they come back to the facility.
They do.
Okay. And then we start all over, a new chart, just like they'd never been here. New TAR, so then I don't understand what the deal is, why we could be, if we are meeting all those criterias and all those check marks, we should not have these issues. So, I mean, to me, we shouldn't be in this problem if we are meeting, and you guys say we are, and I trust you. I mean, you've been doing it long enough.
I see that I can picture the denials coming back, and they say we need more documentation to medical assessment, and they'll ask if we need more physician notes, we need more nursing notes, and we're putting all of this together, and Medi-Cal is determining it's not maybe we do that and that level of care. Maybe they're too stringent. I don't know.
Then have a whole issue of COVID. So I'm not sure how
that affects in it, right?
Exactly. That was the COVID.
Yeah.
Yes, so it was very difficult.
But they're not looking at it as a different, I mean, it's still an admission, discharge, TAR, bed hold. So I'm thinking it sounds more like new admissions, not the bed hold issue, because you can only, it's midnight to midnight, bed in the head at a certain time of.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, so, yeah, I would just
figure out.
think, well, yeah, I wouldn't mind sitting on a committee. I would be really quiet.
I'm sure they would appreciate your.
That's a lie.
But I'm just saying, I see it more as, there's a drop somewhere, and I don't know that it's billing. I don't know that it's not getting the information in. I don't know if they're wanting to provide why they came back.
Yeah.
What's the records they want from maybe the prior facility where they went?
That they're trying to go through and trying to work through to come back with our appeals on those cases to find out. And so, and that's going to take some work.
It does take work.
It does take work.
And that's what
And our staff has put a lot of work and time into it, and we've made some progress. I just have to take a judgment call at this stage of the end of the fiscal year. And like a lot of other CFOs, I took a conservative, pessimistic that, we're probably not going to prevail on too many of these outstanding appeals. But I am glad to see everyone asking questions and taking it seriously, because that's why I'm bringing it up, because I think we have opportunities for improvement. I think historically our staff has showed us that they are committed and they're good at what they do. And I have no doubts that the board and administration is going to be pleased with the results of this committee.
And Dave, your input on these assessments and looking?
My input is I think we still might need some outside consulting, very narrowly focused on certain kinds of denials so that we can get a better feel for what it takes to argue with the state and to see if we can get those overturned. There may be a missing piece there of expertise that we don't have currently that might be well worth it, but I'm willing to forego that for now and see if we can handle it ourselves. Because
I guess I was talking about how do you participate in it?
Oh, I will be on the back end making sure that whatever is determined to be the technical reason why we're not succeeding, that the individuals who are involved in making the changes, even though it may not be the number one important thing for them, because may not be in the billing department, but that I will encourage them to be a team player and to make whatever changes are necessary in their department so that we get paid correctly and timely. So I'm going to be listening. I'm going to be taking marching orders from the committee to say, hey, go to this department, make sure that we are convinced that they've made these changes so that going forward, we don't have to worry about denials in whatever areas we find to be a problem. So my role is to be what Chet used to do, is sit in all the meetings and make sure let the departments run the meetings because they really know what's going on. However, be the one to enforce whatever is necessary to make the committee's findings successful by getting those changes made at a hospital-wide basis. It might also include Tim, and sometimes the medical staff might also need to be involved.
Well, and I think Chet knew the regulations and the reasons and the check marks that needed to be done to follow to get the stuff done. Is that, do you have that knowledge, or can you obtain that knowledge to help in that way?
So I am currently going through that process. I'm seeking out all the individuals that I know and respect, know more than me about this level of detail. And yes, I'm making sure that I'm also an expert at it.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Shirley?
So Dave, the approach right now seems sound to me. But you know, with the worst case scenario, you decide you've had enough and you walk, and we lose one or two key people internally, and we're back to square one. How do we appropriately train our new people so that this doesn't happen in the future? How do we prevent this when there's turnover from falling into this trap again?
Excellent question. I think the individuals who brought forth the idea to resurrect this committee, in effect, minimizes the problem of losing expertise when someone leaves, because you have more people involved and more cross training and automatically involved, because we're understanding what the other departments are doing specifically, so that there's some accountability even across departments when we lose specific individuals. It's less likely to be a problem when we lose the expertise. Clearly, when Judy left, there was a gap. She had a lot of leadership, specifically in detailed specific things related to AR that we probably haven't totally gotten back that higher level of expertise. We've tried if I was to really emphasize one major reason why we weren't successful, is we posted a replacement for Judy's position, which is the billing office manager, without any success. And they've tried a long time, could not find any qualified candidates that were willing to move to this community to take over that role. So it is a potential weakness in our organization if we can't recruit good people in higher technical positions, because when you lose that expertise, you are somewhat at risk.
And I find that to be true in any position, but I guess one of the bottom lines that concern me the most is we have 40 people in there. How'd we lose so much money on 40 to 50 people? You know, the census is low.
Again,
so.
we have times when we make money more than we thought we'd make, and then there's times we lose money, and we could focus on the glass half empty, but I think we have a good staff that's very good at what they do, and they're all committed. And I'm not going to say anything negative about our staff. I think we based on the extenuating circumstances, and I heard all the stories, and there was a lot of things that went wrong, including COVID. The state really slowed down their payments when COVID hit right at the wrong time, and our IT system, which was also a major issue for the Medi-Cal claims, that required a diversion of all our efforts just to fix that. We weren't getting paid at all for Medi-Cal during that exact same time when we were having the TARS. So my point is, based on those extenuating circumstances, I don't see the same kind of problems coming up going forward. I think we have to create an environment where people want to stay here and don't want to walk away, and they need to feel supported. And that's part of my role, is to create the right kind of environment and to let people know that we appreciate them and we believe that they're capable of doing what's necessary.
Okay, that's all I have. Sorry.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Continue. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Those are all good questions, and I'm glad the board takes this as seriously as I do. I wanted to make sure I didn't sweep this under the rug, that we share, you know, things that go well and things that don't go well. Looking at the month profit loss. Before we go any farther, I want to just continue my train of thought about when we looked at the allowance for line 5 on the balance sheet associates to line 7 on the income statement. Discounts and allowances go higher when our allowance for bad debt and allowance on the balance sheet go higher. It's a higher negative number. You can see it's up 200,000 for the month, even though revenues are down 800,000. So the percentage is up significantly due to the fact that we were pessimistic in the month of June about our overall AR not having as high a quality as just an estimate, but being more conservative on that number also causes this number to be conservative on line 7, or it's a higher negative number, which ends up resulting in line 11, which is 2,357,000 being a lower number, because we're doing more in the write-offs and deductions section as a result of analyzing the accounts receivable. So that, despite all that, we still ended up with a pretty good bottom line of close to 200,000, and we have a lot of other good things going on as far as getting third-party settlements taken care of on normal Medicare cost reports and on supplemental funds coming in even better than expected. So we do have some adjustments that are helping that 191,000 be higher as a result of other good things that are going on in the organization. You can see interest income up to 40,000 in the month. Excuse me, that was an adjustment down to 10 for the month, because there's a technical way you have to count for year-end market value. All our interest that we're earning could have even been better if we would have invested it all in June versus in February, because interest rates are now averaging about 5.3%. When we got in, it was about 4.9%. So it's slightly adjusted in terms of market. If we had to sell all our treasury bills, which we're not going to, we have to technically show that as a little bit less in interest income for the month. The year-end number of 2,468,000 total net surplus is again a good solid number. 7.64 total profit margin. percentage. And even though we showed much higher expenses, 1.3 million over, a lot of that was due to the ERC bonus, and also the ERC consulting was a big part of that 1.3 million. When I look at the year-to-date column here, which is the far left column, and I compare it to the far right column, we have an extra page looking at that, where we're just looking at actual compared to last year. And what I was pleasantly surprised in is when I divided up the line items into labor and non-labor, that our inflation on the non-labor was only 3.12%, 400,000, and the vast majority of that 400,000 was the 300,000 in the ERC. So really, we had very little, if any, inflation on the non-labor side. The other thing I want to report is Tim and I have spent a lot of time with the departments looking, even since the end of the fiscal year, at our overall expense structure and making some tweaks on the labor side. There's higher amounts. There are some departments whose labor has gone up without the corresponding increase in volumes due to certain reasons, like respiratory, for example, that we hired more people in respiratory due to COVID. Now COVID's way down, so we are lowering expenses in respiratory and ultrasound. So we aren't just living with the status quo. We're continuing to look for areas where we can make improvement and bring down expenses when there's not the corresponding increase in volumes that need to be there when they show a higher amount of expenses in certain departments. So we are holding the departments accountable and taking a serious approach when it comes to cost containment. Any questions?
Works. No question, sir. And again, I wanted to really paint the glass half full today, because I really think we have a strong organization that continues to be well positioned going forward. And we also have a really good staff that I really excited to work with, because I could really see their dedication and the fact that they've been able to prove themselves over the years. All right, Dave, thank you.
Thank you.
Question?
No, actually, between you, Catherine, and Ross, the questions that I had got asked. So.
You're welcome. Okay. All right, moving on. Old business, we have none. New business, information system strategy. Barry?
Hey, I just wanted to present this as like an informational outline for the next year as to what we're doing, some of the projects that we
Come up here and join us.
so comfortable. So
Always comfortable hiding in the back.
Yeah, so just, I don't know how much detail you guys want me to go into these, but these are essentially the big projects that we have on slate for right now, looking forward for the next 12 months. I'm happy to talk about any one of these if you have questions, but I just wanted to present it. I know, Gene, you've asked for us to kind of show like, where are we going? What are we doing type of thing? Well, here is part of that is, this is what we're looking at for the next 12 months in terms of projects. Kind of a fluid list. Things are going to come off, change, dates are going to change, things are going to be added as needs arise, but these are the big ones for the next year. So I don't know if everybody had time to kind of look them over. If you have any questions.
I did, and I'll start a motion and accept it. We'll still talk, right?
Well, I don't know if the motion is needed for this necessarily.
Yeah, this is more informational. Yeah.
This
Oh,
is
it's just informational?
Yeah, let you know.
Okay.
So if you guys have questions on any particular one, I don't know if you want me to go down the whole list one by one. Take a bunch of time, but whatever you guys want, you tell me.
I personally read through them. Thank you for the information. It's greatly appreciated, but I don't know about the other board.
I didn't have any questions right now. That doesn't mean I won't later.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of these are underway right now, and stuff that we've already talked about in whatever committees we've been part of. But I just wanted a comprehensive list so that we all can see what's going on.
It's helpful. So can you give us an update in 6 months?
Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah, this is a list that I've decided to just kind of keep updating as projects change. stuff gets
Keep
put on
it
hold.
fluid and
Yeah.
active, so we all know what's going on.
Yep,
Is the scheduling system on that?
it is.
It looks like, after October 23rd, you're gonna be sitting around.
Twiddling my
your
thumbs,
thumbs,
yeah.
I'll believe that one.
We all have a few plans for Carrie.
He'll be back wanting something.
Sure. I already have thoughts, but
No doubt.
you'll see.
Nice job, Terry. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Not yet. Catherine?
Nope.
Sir? Ross? All right. Okay. Director's comments not appearing on the agenda, Mr. Elliott?
Thanks, Fred. I attended that CNA graduation ceremony yesterday, and talk about uplifting to see these people who've gone through this training. They're embarking on, a new career for them, and the care and love that they're bringing to the community in taking on this job was really something. I was so proud of all of them. And our instructors, Ben and Joy, did a wonderful job. And I know that there was not just those two. I'm sure there's all kinds of people supporting that effort. I'm so glad that we started that program. I think it's so good. I hope that once they start the work, they embrace it and don't run for the hills. Because attrition is hard. Attrition is hard on us. It keeps us from growing our capabilities in the SNF. But I was very hopeful yesterday and appreciate being invited to that. It was a very good experience, and I want to just congratulate all those graduates. Thank you.
Mr. Parks?
I'm gonna pass today.
All right. Ms. Catherine?
No, I'm good, thanks.
You're good. Mr. Black? Don't have anything either. Nothing? All right.
Oh, now I'm scared. All right. When you two don't Vegas.
I just wanted to say that I was sorry that I missed yesterday's event, but unfortunately I was committed to running the chamber event. So, but I'm glad that everyone was there. I'm glad to see where our program is coming to and the fruition is coming to be, because it's benefiting everybody in this valley. But with that said, let's jump into closed session.
Thanks for coming, ladies.
Yes.
Are you ready?
Yes, sir.
All right, in closed session, there was no information on the Benson matter regarding the Volkova potential litigation. On motion by Director Parks, seconded by Director Blythe, the board voted unanimously to reject the claim. And the board performed an evaluation of the CEO's performance. No other items were discussed. That's it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Scott. Please be safe. Have a great day. We're adjourned, everyone.
Stay here, Scott.
Thank you.
You guys take care too.